Good morning, everyone. Before I jump in, how about now? And we're back. Our singer Ava can't be with us today, unfortunately. So you'll see that we have a guest singer, Ava. She can't be here with us today, unfortunately. We'll have her back another time. So none of the music that's put in there will be accurate, but I'll just be playing by myself. So thank you all.
Good morning, everybody. All right, this one works. My name is Justin Wilson. I am the Congregational Life Coordinator here at First Universalist. I use he, him pronouns, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here to this service this morning. If this is your first time here, we especially welcome you. Thank you for joining us at our worshiping community here. And we invite you to remain after for coffee hour in the Clara Barton Lounge behind us through these two doors or online in the same Zoom link. There's also a visitor's form that we ask you to fill out that's on the back of your order of service. Please fill that out so we can offer you a welcome beyond what we can this morning and also so you can stay up to date as to what's going on here at the church. Just a reminder, if you have a big joy or sorrow in your heart this morning, we invite you to write it up here in the notebook on the chancel or online in the Zoom chat before the chalice is lit. So now is a good time to do that. We've got a number of announcements. It's a busy week. So I'll try to go quickly here. The Faith in Action Council, or FIAC, will be hosting a discussion today to gather input for the all-congregation social justice project next year to be voted on at the annual meeting. So grab some coffee, grab a snack, and come back to the sanctuary here today at noon if you want to provide input. This may be one of your last chances in person. This Tuesday evening during the drop-in discussion, you can also join online to provide input. We also have the LGBTQ social justice group today, the Rochester Model Railroad Club open house today, which is downstairs in the basement. They're opening a little early just for us if you want to come take a peek before their official opening at 1. If you missed our ritual of release this morning for room 21, you are still welcome to go up there and spend some time in the space. There is still chalice and stones and a bowl to drop stones in. Spend some time there and just kind of be there with your emotions for a minute. And lastly, we need some physical helpers today. So if you're in the mood to move some things around, we need some people to help move some things from the Clinton vestibule and in the Clara Barton Lounge and all over today to prepare for some tile work later this week. Or if you're interested in painting, we also could use some painters in the coming week. So see me or Michael Scott if you're interested. Okay, before we say hello to our neighbors, let's say hello to our online community. Let's wave towards the camera there, the Progress Pride flag in the back there. We thank you for joining us. If you're online, feel free to pop a greeting into the chat. And for those of us here in person, let's take a moment and say hello to our neighbors this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, I'm Reverend Eileen, she, her, and I want to invite you to stay standing if you are, or to rise in body or in spirit, and sing together our first hymn, number 1068, is that right? 1068 in the teal hymnal, Rising Green.
Good morning. I'm Jay Joslin, and I use he, him pronouns. And I was, and still am, a weird kid. It's fair to say that as a Unitarian Universalist, I'm in good company. As a single mom's only child in the latchkey generation, time to myself was abundant. Yet I was never truly alone. A cadre of stuffed animals were not only stand-ins for unavailable human friends, they were a parliament. Growing up in a political family, even very young, I knew that decision-making was deliberative. While some early memories are hazy, I do remember the factions of that parliament. There were the critters with stripes or spots, animals that were purple, my favorite color, and plushies in need of repair. We can relate to those. I took my questions to them. They were proxies for processing the great unknowns in life. Why do I have to eat green things? What are turtlenecks? And why must I grow up? A child's room is a protective bubble against a world that holds as long as it can against time. One day, my friend Rocky said that stuffed animals were stupid. So under the bed they went and traded for soldiers and spaceships. Still, the imaginary friends of childhood evolve into lifelong guardian angels in ever-changing form. We begin to summon imagination in baby steps, a process that's ours alone. What we create in private sanctity forms our identity, our values, teaching us to grow in right relation with others. To label or synthesize what becomes of our relations takes a living understanding of what relationality means, what it means to be alive. A teddy bear could know better about what it means to be alive than a data center. Each passing day increases in implausibility. Who's who and what's what. Maybe this is less of an adult problem to be solved and more for your own metaphorical bundle of stuffies. For a congregation full of weird kids, imagination is a first and very personal proof that thoughts have a magical power to transform how we feel. From a cloister of stuffed animals to the soft animals of your body gathered today, let us feel into the inimitable call to live as we are made to live. Come, let us worship together. As Bill Schubmel comes forward to light our chalice at First Universalist, and you light a chalice in your own homes, please join me for our chalice lighting words spoken in unison. May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. You may be seated. I invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. The good work of this church is funded by the gifts you give. Part of that good work is the ministry of the Caring Committee. The Caring Committee's mission is to provide short-term help to members and friends of the church through caring, comforting, and visitation. Would any members of the Caring Committee please raise your hands here or online? We are grateful for your contributions to the life of this church and the needs of the world. Let us give with grateful hearts this morning. Please place your offering in the offering basket or give online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. This is also a great time to place visitors' forms in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
And now it's time for a story. As our ushers and our smaller ushers finish up, I want to invite you forward to sit on the story blanket if you'd like to come sit on the story blanket, whatever age you are. If you need to bring a grown-up with you, you can bring a grown-up with you. This morning's story is a retelling of a book called The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. And it's a retelling because it's a bit of a long book to read during worship. But has anybody read this book before? Lots of us know it, right? It's fun to tell familiar stories from time to time. And this might be familiar to you, and maybe it's the first time you're hearing about this rabbit. And the story starts like this. Long, long ago, one Christmas morning, a little boy found a velveteen rabbit in his stocking. And here's where you might be wondering, what is velveteen? It's a material like velvet, soft and fuzzy kind of, but not quite as fancy as velvet. So the boy noticed the rabbit, but he mostly played with all of the mechanical toys that he received. The ones that you could wind up and they had moving parts and they would skitter across the floor, or they would climb up and down or hop over his other toys. They were so exciting to him that he set aside the little stuffed rabbit, and it ended up tucked on a shelf and forgotten in the nursery for a long while. The rabbit watched the boy play with all these exciting, moving toys and felt jealous. The rabbit wanted to be fancy and exciting. Lonesome and jealous in the nursery, the rabbit became friends with a character in this story called the Skin Horse, which sounds like a really funny name for a toy, and what it actually is a worn-out leather rocking horse. that had been in the nursery a long time and had been loved by the boy's uncle before the boy was even born. The horse reminded the rabbit not to be jealous, because the mechanical toys were exciting, but they were not real, the horse said. Eventually, they will grow boring, or they will fall apart. Their pieces will come undone, and they won't be truly loved because they aren't real. And what is real? The rabbit wanted to know, and maybe you are also wondering. What do you think the answer was? What do you think, Ewan?
The horse.
The horse was real. You know what? He was. And what did it mean to be real? Well, what the horse said was that to be real was not to be beautiful or fancy or modern or have many moving pieces. In fact, to be real meant to be loved so well and so heartily that you actually might start to look a little worn down and have your fur rubbed off. You're real, he said, if you're loved so well that a child believes you are real. And that night at bedtime, the boy needed a soft toy to sleep with, and he couldn't find one that seemed right. Have you ever been in that situation? Yeah. So Nana looked around and found the rabbit on a shelf and brought it to him. "This will do," she said. And the rabbit did do. The rabbit was the boy's soft comfort that night and for every night after. And soon the rabbit became his favorite toy. The boy would hold him every night and tell the rabbit all his joys and sorrows. And he would play outside with him every day, having many great adventures. And after some time, the rabbit became real to the boy. On one of their outside adventures, the Velveteen Rabbit met some real living rabbits and started to feel that jealousy all over again, that maybe he wasn't the right kind of real, that he wasn't as fancy or as lovely or as moving as those living rabbits. But he had the boy, so he moved on. That fall, the boy got sick with something called scarlet fever. And the rabbit stayed in his arms the whole time that he was sick. It was a long illness, and the boy was hot with the fever, and it was uncomfortable for the rabbit, but he stayed right there with his boy. And they whispered about all the things they would do once the boy was better. And he did get better. He recovered, and then the doctor ordered that everything in his bedroom be burned: sheets, blankets, pajamas, and the rabbit. See, back then, we were just only then understanding how germs worked. And the doctor thought that that would prevent anyone else in the family from getting sick. So the rabbit was left in a pile outside to be burned, with all those pieces of bedding and blankets and pajamas and everything that had been in the boy's sick room. And the rabbit was so sad that he started to cry. He felt, what is the point of being real if I have to lose the boy that I love? And he cried so much that a real tear fell from his little eye onto the ground. And from that tear, a fairy appeared. She said to the rabbit, "Don't you remember me?" And he said, "Not really." She said, "I'm the magic of the nursery that helps toys to become real. I've been watching all along. And I'm going to work my magic to make you really real." And the rabbit said, "I was already real." And she said, "Yes, you were real to the boy, and now you will be real to the whole world." And she gave the rabbit a kiss on his little scruffy, worn-down nose. And then she picked him up and placed him in the center of a grove of trees. And he became a living rabbit. And he started to jump and play with all the other living rabbits there who he had met once before. They played together and they jumped through the field, and he felt a joy like he had never felt before. And about a year later, that little boy was playing in the garden, and a real live rabbit hopped up close to him. And the boy looked at it, and he said, "The spots on that rabbit, they remind me of that old velveteen rabbit I used to have." And he didn't know it, but it was that real rabbit that he used to have. who came to check on him now and then, between playing with his friends in the forest. And this is the end of our story. You might be wondering why we told this story this morning. Why do you think we did? Any ideas? Today we are thinking about what it means to be real. Who is real and who is imaginary, and what is the line between imaginary and real? And so I hope that those wonderings and this story will live in your hearts until we are together again. Also, this morning is a morning of our food in-gathering. So if you've brought food to donate to our friends at the Nestor Street Food Cupboard and you want it brought forward, would you raise a hand? And if you're willing to be a helper and to go bring some food forward to you, will you go see who has their hand raised and grab some food for them to go right into these baskets up front? I see a few hands in the back. You're so strong. And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing our doxology, and our children head upstairs with Miss Lily. If you're heading to RE this morning, I invite you to go up now. Let us enter now into that reverent time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of this gathered community. If you would like to, you can place a hand over your heart and to be able to listen to these joys and sorrows from a more heart-centered place. We know so much is going on in our world today, and if you have joys or sorrows on behalf of our national or global community, you are invited and encouraged to share them today and every Sunday. As Jay places stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows of our community this morning. We share with Susan in a sorrow, looking for positive energy sent to two friends who are having big medical challenges. We share with many of you sorrow, concern, and a fair bit of anger over the war in Iran. We share a joy with one attendee who loves their job and hopes everyone is brave when participating in capitalism, which is hard, and finds a job full of joy as much as theirs. We share recognition with Bill of International Women's Day. We share a joy with Brock to be performing in a concert at Nazareth at 3 o'clock today of music all by women with his partner Ryan at Beston Hall at Naz. We share in Catherine's joy to spend a month in France with a new granddaughter who feels like a hope in a troubled world. We share gladness with Hal That Gail returned from the Caribbean with kids a few hours ago. And we share with a friend concern over the loss of resources and tools they felt entitled to, and gratitude for the privilege of having had them to begin with. Today, we also share in a community ritual to honor the many joys and sorrows we bring into this space, whether we've read them aloud or kept them in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. In a moment, those who are here in person are invited to come forward and drop stones into a bowl. If you need to remain seated, you can always raise your hand and someone will bring a bowl to you. If you're joining us online, please drop a heart emoji into the meeting chat instead of a stone. And let us join in this collective ritual of honoring the joys and sorrows of us all now. Now the circle of our care is drawn larger. May it increase forevermore. I invite us now into a time of prayer and centering, followed by some shared silence. So let's start by breathing. In fact, I invite you to breathe all the way through and to continue even after. Let's take a deep breath together, friends. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and perhaps let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Your eyes may close. Breathe out and feel held by the seat that holds you, the community that holds you. Breathe in. I know your body is holding so much. Breathe out. Feel the floor with your feet, the chair with your arm, the community that surrounds you. Breathe in and know that you are held by this good earth, by this good church. Breathe out. There is room enough here. Breathe in. There is strength enough here. Breathe out to hold it all our joys and sorrows, hope and rage, worries and wonder, our wounds and our delight. Breathe in. Whatever we are holding, breathe out. We do not hold it alone. Spirit of love, remind us as we sit with all our joy and all our sorrow, all the grief and grace, rupture and repair, life and loss that comes with loving one another and this world. We are not alone. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. This morning's hymn of contemplation is number 403, Spirit of Truth, of Life, of Power. I want to start this morning by inviting you into some petty annoyance with me. Are you prepared for that? More prepared than I could wish for. Thank you. Here's the thing. Typically, I find it annoying when preachers tell you their process as they preach a sermon. When you get the how was the sermon made embedded in the preaching. I find it to be annoying and boring, and I'd rather just hear the point you arrived at than hear the story of how you arrived at the point. And today, in a sermon about tools that spit out content at us without any visibility of process, it does feel meaningful to share some of the process with you. Because creative process, we want to say today, matters. And if you will allow it, I'd like to share some process with you. And if you'd rather be petty and annoyed, I encourage you to do that. It is a deeply human way to be. So last week, on Monday morning, I started to write this sermon on artificial intelligence to deliver it over at First Unitarian in our annual pulpit swap. The title and description of which I had excitedly set for myself more than 6 weeks prior. I sat down at my laptop, fingers hovering over the keys, and I thought to myself, uh-oh, what is AI anyway? And by midday on Monday, I had no fewer than 57 tabs in 3 different windows open on my laptop. I went, pun very much intended, down rabbit hole after rabbit hole of technical descriptions and speculations on ethics and data on resource consumption and cognitive impacts and community impacts and educational impacts and somewhat verifiable stories about an AI bot being ordained as a Buddhist monk and people falling in love with their chat bots and AI fake news and fake news about AI fake news. And the ever-present Google Gemini AI sparkling in the corner of my Chrome browser window, offering its helpful assistance. I went round and round like a wind-up toy in the Velveteen Rabbit until finally I had a meeting to get to. So I closed my laptop, tabs buzzing, and walked away to sit with someone whose mom had died after a long illness. And then I shifted into a complicated staffing issue and talking that through with every party involved. And then shifted again to package up all the handwritten cards of encouragement and love that you all wrote to our UU siblings in Minneapolis in the street, and to get those to the post office, and then to take a call from someone on my way back who was having a hard time and needed a person they trusted to listen to them. And then we're well into Tuesday by now, don't worry about me. Then to get the church ready for 200 or so community members who care about immigration justice to gather, and then to sit with those 200-ish people and listen to Reverend Sherry invite us into radical neighboring, and to sing together, "Hold on, dear ones, here comes the dawn." And it was about the time that the 6th or 7th interfaith neighbor came up to me that night to ask, "What are these rocks? What are these bowls of water and these rocks you have here?" And my explanation of how in our congregation we invite people to let a stone hold all the joys and sorrows in their heart, and then release it into the water as a symbol of the way that this community holds their celebrations and their pain with them. These stones, little representatives of the earth that holds us all, that holds all the joys and sorrows that have ever been. And it was about that time, stone in hand, that I realized no one had asked me to be an expert in AI. So, as a disclaimer, I will not be. And I see now how that seems obvious. And maybe it was obvious to you the whole way through. That my job here is not to hold expertise about technology, and thank God, because that was not going to happen no matter how many browser windows we dove into. That part, at least, was obvious to all of us. My work here, our work here as a church, is to hold all the messiness of being alive, to be a container that holds the space for people to be real. And here's what I do know about AI as a non-expert. I don't like it. I'm surprised at myself. I think my only maybe 10 years younger self would be surprised to hear me say that. As someone who really loves sci-fi, who loves all of the interesting questions raised by my favorite sci-fi authors like Becky Chambers about what constitutes a person, and maybe shouldn't a robot sometimes count? I'm a person who grew up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I couldn't have envisioned a world where I would think, data? Nah, we don't want that, right? But I gotta admit, I don't like it. And so I felt like it was at least some of my work to figure out why. Here's where I need you to listen to me closely. What I didn't say was that I don't like you if you use AI or work in AI. I want to make sure you hear that part. We're hearing that part, right? We live in an unethical system, and there are no perfectly ethical choices to be made. I do like you, and I trust you to do your best. And you know what else? I'm a real, live, messy human who loves and hates stuff unreasonably. There are some reasons, though. The extreme resource waste and environmental devastation, for one, for a big one. Data centers of the type that house AI servers have doubled their electricity consumption just from 2017 to 2023. And a recent study out of UC Berkeley estimated that data centers are using 4.5% of all energy in the United States. And their projections show that in just 2 to 3 years, AI data alone, not counting all the other data being processed and stored, could account for as much electricity use as 22% of US households. With that kind of growth, of course, trends are toward dirtier energy, more coal, more petroleum. The carbon output of data centers has been astronomical and virtually unregulated. And we haven't even gotten to the water. Most data centers are using millions of gallons of water a day for cooling, and much of that is clean, potable water straight out of our municipal supply, which will evaporate and not be drinkable again for many, many human lifetimes. Some estimates suggest that asking ChatGPT one question uses up about a liter of water. And of course, those are just estimates, because in reality, we don't know much for sure. We don't know how much energy or water we are wasting on AI cat videos or generated work emails or every Google search that automatically uses Gemini to compile its answers. We don't know because, by and large, tech companies keep that information a closely guarded secret. And I don't know about you, but when multi-billion-dollar industries keep closely guarded secrets about their processes, I get a little suspicious about the ethics of those processes. The argument from big tech is that the benefits are going to be worth the trade-off. And even without any transparency about what exactly we are trading, I think most regular folks understand that argument to be laughably false. Because when has automation ever led to a greater benefit for laborers, for anyone but the owners of capital, the billionaire class who have bet big on this technology? We've heard the same argument over and over. But did the cotton gin improve the lives of the enslaved laborers harvesting and processing cotton, or just their enslavers' lives? Did the assembly line improve the lives of factory workers, or just Henry Ford's? Did home automation, like washing machines, dishwashers, and microwaves, improve the lives of women doing domestic labor? It did not. The average hours of domestic labor stayed unchanged from 1900 to 1965. The thing that improves domestic laborers' lives is gender equality in paid and unpaid labor. The thing that improves factory workers' lives is labor law reform. The thing that improves enslaved people's lives is abolition. Here's the part in my sermon notes last week where I wrote the parenthetical question to myself, is this a sermon or a Marxist manifesto? To be fair, this is not the only Sunday you might be asking that of me. And when I texted Reverend Sherry about it, she said, I think people will know from context. For example, you're giving it in a church. I do think we're getting around to some theology, okay? Stay with me. We're going to find out together. Down one of the many rabbit holes in the search for what is AI anyway, I found an essay by the writer Mandy Brown, who said this: the technocrats have labeled any and all manner of engineering practices as AI and riddled their products with sparkle emojis to the extent that what we mean when we say artificial intelligence is, from a technology standpoint, no longer meaningful. AI seems to be, at every moment, everything from an algorithm of the kind that has been in use for half a century, to bullshit generators that clutter up our information systems, to the promised arrival of new consciousness, a prophesied God who will either savage us or save us, or somehow both at the same time. In other words, even actual experts have trouble with this question. Because artificial intelligence, a term that goes back to 1956, is not a technology, it's an ideology. And the ideology that today's billionaires have bet on is the same one that they have been betting on all along. And that is the ideology of supremacy. If you thought this was a Marxist manifesto before, buckle up. Honestly, in that understanding, it doesn't feel so much like a scary new threat, but more like the old familiar threat we've known for generations. The powerful have always cloaked their ideologies of supremacy in the flimsy garment of pseudoscientific justification. These are just new tools in the same old colonialist tool belt, along with ships and guns and drones and IQ tests and voter ID laws. It is just a new means to extract resources from the world and funnel them toward a few powerful people in service of the age-old ideology that some people matter more than others. It is just another iteration of the lie that truth and salvation are something we receive from power in exchange for our labor and our loyalty. I can still imagine a world where there are artificial intelligence technologies we do like Becky Chambers robots, who don't outsource imagination but push us to imagine creatively about the limits of personhood. or like the stuffed animals of so many generations that accompany us warmly in the work of being human rather than alienate us from it. Or like Star Trek's Data, who preserve life rather than destroy it. What we have is not that. What we have is tech and the mythology of that tech built to serve an altogether different ideology. In the interest of that ideology, I fear we've made AI into an idol, a deified object. We talk about it, or at least its big-betting billionaire investors do anyway, like it's an all-knowing, ever-present, inevitable force that's hidden behind a veil of mystery, like it's a god, like it's the thing that will save us. And the thing is, the failure of every idol is that it's not messy enough to get at the real truth of being alive. Anything we imagine into being as immortal and omniscient couldn't possibly be real enough to meet our messy needs. They might be fancy and modern and moving, but they can't be real if they aren't soft and ordinary enough to be loved. If they aren't letting the soft animals of their bodies love what they love, if you will. My older child was considering a new haircut recently, and he typed something like shaggy boy haircuts into a Google image search and then started scrolling through them. He found a picture he liked, but then immediately said, "Ugh, it's AI though." I asked how he clocked it so quickly, and he said, "I don't know. It's just, that's what we wish a person looked like, but it's not what a person looks like." So maybe we remind ourselves here of what the skin horse told the Velveteen Rabbit, that generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, your eyes drop out, you get loose in your joints and very shabby. Being real, which is the work we are here to do, means learning how to hold the joys and sorrows of the ones we love. Means sometimes we get worn down by that work. Means we make a mess of that work sometimes, and it makes a mess of us. It means learning to delight and to grieve because we know that so little of what we love is inevitable and unending. It means making space in ourselves to hold the knowledge that none of this beautiful mess can last. And when we face up to the reality that AI is not a god, it also lays bare the fear behind the lie that we have told about ourselves. That maybe we are nothing more than a collection of facts, true and untrue. When actually we are particular and finite, fragile and lovely, ordinary and complicated, and so very messy. AI could very well replace our paid labor with automation, but the work we are here to do is not to be machines. Our work is to belong to one another. And only someone real can do it. Only someone real can square up to the truth of mortality, the joy and the sorrow in loving what doesn't last, which is all of this. May it be so, and amen. And would you rise in your bodies or in spirits and sing together our closing hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses. Please remain standing if you are, as Jay extinguishes our chalice flame this morning. And let us read together the words printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts, with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in, until we are together again. As we close our service this morning, I invite you to place a hand over your heart. If you're joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those gathered with you. For those of us here in this room, let's take a moment to look around at all those gathered here today. And let us not forget our real work, to hold one another in this beautiful mess. Friends, everyone is invited to join us for coffee hour immediately after the service in the Clara Barton Lounge, straight back behind me, or in the same Zoom meeting online. We hope to see you there.
We'll try this one. Yay. So one of the big advantages of having such a musical community here is we can be missing a performer, and I have someone like Ed who comes up to me and says, why don't we just do this song live? And this is a song I've done with Ed and really enjoyed doing with him, and we haven't done it here at church in a while. So this is Beautiful City from Godspell, right?
The context of this song is the Last Supper and Jesus talking to his disciples. Is it on? Oh, yeah. Is it on? I can go. Out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of our night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope? One pale thin ray, reaching for the day. We can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels. We can build a city for all. We may not reach the ending, but we can start slowly but truly mending, brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now, we start learning how can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels. We can build a city for all. When your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, well, you can give up bitter and battered. You can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels, but finally a city for all. A city for all.